vulnerability isn't always easy for us, right? It can be hard, but it's the actual starting point for us to be able to tap into our authenticity, our authentic power of reaching into that center and core of who we are. You know, sometimes there's places within ourselves that we don't love, and we want to hide those parts. We push them down, and when we do that, we hide our own light. And so I feel like, I hope that all this month we've been feeling invited to tap into our vulnerability, because it really is a place for us to discover what's lying underneath that may need some healing and some love and compassion for ourselves. So we can't actually transform unless we go there. You know, we can push it away. We can decide, oh, I don't want to look at that part of myself. But it's not until we actually open up and allow ourselves to take a deeper look that we can begin to feel vulnerable. And I was talking to one of our members yesterday, and they were saying how perfect it is that I'm the bridge minister and that this is the topic. Because I do believe I'm a role model of vulnerability. Vulnerability is that place. Well, it's different things. Like Rev Madeline last week spoke about how we're all vulnerable. We're all vulnerable just being human beings. That anything can happen to us. We can fall down, break our arm. We can, get in a car accident. Anything can happen, right? So there's that type of vulnerability. And then there's the emotional vulnerability, where we're giving ourselves permission to actually share with other people those things about ourselves that we don't like, or the things that are hard to share. Does that answer your question? Sounds like you're good at being vulnerable. So one of the things that was suggested in this topic for the week is a practice of choosing somebody that we really trust this week and doing this practice called "What I Don't Want You to Know About Me Right Now." So that's one way of practicing being vulnerable. So I'm going to do that for you. I got this right now. I'll share a story. So I'm just going to sit here for the moment and share a story, and then I'll invite others if you want to share. Rev Lanny will pass around the mic. So I'm feeling vulnerable today. Yesterday would have been the 91st birthday of my father. And so what I don't want you to know is that I'm mourning the death of my dad. This is an ID bracelet I found in his stuff. Last year, we were in Texas celebrating my dad, Julio's 90th birthday, with the family at the Robles Ranch. And I just knew that there was no way I would miss that birthday because it could be his last. And so I left Baja early and flew to Texas and got to have the most amazing experience with my relatives. My dad was an amazing human being. It's because of my dad that I have such an open heart. That's who he was. An interesting thing happened yesterday. I was privileged to have been invited to participate in a very small circle of people who were celebrating the life of Pat Barentine. And so I got to go there and offer the prayers and share about what an amazing human being Pat was. We didn't get to have a celebration for her here. But I want you to know that Pat painted that picture behind me. And so I just want to give us the opportunity, for those of you that knew Pat, who she was, if you feel like you would like to share something about Pat, we can pass the mic around.
Well, and I'll start. Pat was an amazing person, and she would write the stories of other people's lives. She wrote the story of Len Lewis's life. She wrote the story of her mother's life. So she captured these lives for others through her writings. And she was also a very activist person who really, took on the burdens of the inequities in society on herself and did what she could to bring a greater experience of equality and a greater experience of love and life to everyone that she interacted with. So she was an amazing woman.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely.
One of the things that I appreciated most about Pat was just this role model of beautiful aging she was someone who just seemed to grow younger. And I was friends with her on Facebook, and she just knew so many poems and beautiful quotes, and she just had such a rich inner and outer life where when I think of her, I think of someone who really spread light and love in the world. And it was a real honor to know her.
I don't think I ever got to meet Pat in person because of the pandemic, but she was always there on the Zoom services. And I was such good friends with both her and, her best friend, Pat Cooper. I referred to them as Pat 1 and Pat 2. And I feel like it's perfect that we're talking about this on a day that we're discussing vulnerability, because Pat Barentine never just said, yeah, I'm doing good. She said exactly what she was feeling, what she was going through, what she was struggling with. And that was sort of an invitation for me to be able to do the same. And we had so many exchanges where we just shared with each other, oh, I'm feeling something like that too. This is what I'm struggling. And it was this empathy and support that we were able to provide. And we both would finish by going like, "Thank you so much for sharing that." And she was very vulnerable and, very courageous in that way. And just, but in another sense, she never made it about her. It was, she was always so concerned about other people and just so sweet and compassionate. I mean, yeah, I was kind of surprised at how much I grieved when I learned that she passed away. I was honored to be included in that whole process. So, yeah, she's a wonderful person.
Anybody else? Thank you. Stephen, we were all very moved by your card the card that you wrote about Pat yesterday. It was very beautiful. So Ernest Holmes says, we are to view ourselves each in the other and behold God in all. So I think for me that's key in being able to be so vulnerable. It's because I am you and you are me and we are one. And I feel safe in God. There's that thing inside of us, right? The very center and core of our being that cannot be damaged. We as humans can be. And yet underneath that is the Spirit. It's always there. So there's a power in vulnerability, a power to transform ourselves. When we can get down underneath to find out what's underlying, that's wanting to be shared. Desmond Tutu says, "My humanity is bound up in yours, for we can only be human together." And so as a community, I invite us to continue to practice being vulnerable with one another, because as we transform ourselves, it creates the opportunity to have a stronger, healthier community. That's one of the benefits, right? It's not easy, but we can do it, right? And we're all at different places, and that's okay. As a community, we can lift each other up. We can pick each other up when we fall down. And please don't put me on a pedestal because I will fall off of it. I'm just a human being, just like you. But you know what? Some spiritual traditions consider Hu as the word meaning God. So we are God beings. And that's what Jesus taught us, right? We are all God beings in our humanity. So it's not that I'm a spiritual being and that's what I'm striving to become. And let go of my humanity. No, that's not what we're about. We're about wholeness, embracing all of us, the shadow, the dark parts, the parts that we don't love. Because guess what? When we're able to love ourselves, we're honoring the divinity that is the truth of our being. So if there's parts of ourselves that we don't love, hello, we need to heal that so that we can love God. So I invite us to consider, what is it about myself that I don't love? Is there something? What is that false belief that is standing in the way of you being your authentic self? Those things that we tell ourselves in our head, right? Those false stories, those false narratives. I'm not smart enough. I used to have a problem because I didn't have a college degree. I was comparing myself to other people. I got my degree from the School of Hard Knocks. And I get to give back to humanity from all that I went through, all that I lived through, all that I survived through. I had the privilege of connecting with a dear distant relative this Friday that she said I hadn't seen her in 40 years. But we were very close when I was like 17 and 18, right around the time that I had a spiritual trauma, a huge spiritual trauma in my life. And I didn't know this, but she said she was really mad about that. That she had always seen me as a spiritual being, a really spiritual person. And so to have that, an excommunication happen, that was my choice. She was quite upset. And so we got to share really deep things personally. She asked me, and if you don't know this about me by now, I'm a very open and transparent person. And so I was able to share some really deep things with her. And, later on she contacted me and she said, I really appreciated our time together, especially the deep sharing, right? That's the thing. It builds bridges. If we can allow ourselves to go there and be there with each other, in that place where it's hard to be, where our hearts feel broken, it's that place where the light shines in and the light shines out, right? That's where we can transform ourselves. We can transform our relationships. We can transform our community to be strong and healthy. It's kind of interesting how in our life, we kind of shy away from conflict or things that are uncomfortable, or I don't want to share this about myself, right? But you know what? Conflict is an opportunity for growth. It's actually a good thing. It's something calling to us to change, to have a greater expression of life itself. So all these things, this has been a month of vulnerability, talking about vulnerability and authenticity. And it's the way the world will heal. And I don't know about you, but I've never lived in a time where our world needs more healing than it does right now. And it starts right here. That healing starts right here within us, each and every one of us. So I invite us to wake up. Oh my gosh, really? We need to wake up to our spiritual magnificence right now, today, yesterday. How about yesterday? Let's wake up because the world needs us more than ever. The world needs us to shine our light like only we can. Because we are each perfect, whole, and complete individualizations of spirit in form. There's nowhere to go, but only to be. To be the one in form. It's funny, I was getting ready for this talk and I'm like, oh my gosh, I was thinking about Christian religions and how, they've got Jesus. In a world like today, Jesus is important to a lot of people, right? Something that can save us, someone that can save us, take away our sins. And in this philosophy, we're taught that sin is to miss the mark. And so when I think about missing the mark, what is the mark? The mark that we're missing. Something came to me, and it was this. The only belief that needs to be healed is the mistaken belief that I'm separate from Source, capital S. If I can just heal that one belief. Imagine a world that works for all as we heal the mistaken belief that we are separate from Source. It's funny, I was just like, well, what is the mistaken belief? Do you have a mistaken belief about yourself? That you are not God in form? I'm asking you, because right now we need to let those go. Are you willing to let them go? It took me a long time to love all of me. A long time. That recovering perfectionist served me so well up until a point when it didn't. So I'm okay with making mistakes. Oh my gosh, you know, I don't even know where the rest of my little notes went. I think it was on purpose, right? There are no accidents. We're all here on purpose. There's a divine calling. It's that thing within us that won't let us alone, right? It's that thing that's pulling us forward, that spiritual evolution, that process of our own divinity being revealed as we let go of all those false beliefs. And so I'm just going to end with prayer and invite us to go within. Right here and right now, I claim and accept that I am a perfect, whole, complete individualization of God, of spirit, in form, and that as a human being, I am a God being, that everything about me is on purpose. And so I embrace and love all those parts of myself that I don't want to look at. I give myself permission to let go of the false ideas, those stories that are untruths about myself. Anything other than the truth of my being, that I am whole, complete, and perfect just as I am, I let it go right here, right now. I let my heart break wide open so the light can shine out and bless the world. I let myself be vulnerable so that I can build bridges with each of you. For you are God. We are one. And so I simply say, thank you for the yesness of spirit within us that continues to urge us on our spiritual evolutionary journey. Thank goodness for this community. Thank goodness for one another. For we can only be human in relationship with one another. I need you to evolve with me. I need you to remind me of the truth of who I am when I forget. And so I just am so grateful for this center, for this teaching, this philosophy. I'm so grateful for the emphasis on vulnerability and authenticity, knowing that we are divinity in form. I simply release this as our truth, and together we say, and so it is. Thank you.